Hey guys, Nina here, welcoming you to another reading from the Ladies of Horror Picture Prompt Monthly Challenge, hosted by Elaine Pascale on her channel, The Godmother of Horror. If you'd like to read along or read previously published pieces, please visit spreadingthewritersword.com or ladiesofhorror.com. In the meanwhile, enjoy the reading.
The Last Performance by Kathleen McCluskey. In the heart of the forgotten city stood the Edenwood Theater, its grand facade a ghost of its former self. Decades ago, it had been a beacon of culture, drawing the finest actors and the most discerning audiences. But now the windows were boarded, and the once vibrant marquee had long since dimmed. Yet inside, a single candle flickered, its flame wavering in the thick, musty air. Alice had always been drawn to abandoned places. As a historian, it was her job to document them, but Edenwood was different. The theater held a strange allure. Locals spoke of whispers in the dark, of lights that turned on when nobody was inside, and of a final performance that never ended. Most avoided the crumbling building, but Alice couldn't resist the pull. She stepped through the decaying doors. Her footsteps echoed through the vast empty foyer. The smell of damp wood and dust filled her nose. The once gilded walls were now tarnished, and the grand chandelier above sagged precariously on its chain. Yet, in the center of the theater, on the small stage, a small candle, tipped on its side, burned untouched by time or the elements. As Alice approached, the flickering light cast eerie shadows across the theater. It illuminated the faded red velvet seats, the cracked stage, and the heavy, rotting curtains. There was something unnatural about the flame. It didn't sway or dim, but held steady, as though waiting. She reached out to touch the candle, her fingers brushing the warm wax as a large chill ran up her spine. The air grew thick, and a low murmur filled the space around her. It sounded like a whisper, a collective breath of forgotten souls. Alice froze. Her heart pounded in her chest. The flame wavered for the first time, and the theater responded. The once silent seats creaked, and Alice turned to see shadowy figures seated in the audience. They were barely visible. Their forms flickered like mirages, but they were there, hundreds of them sitting quietly, watching the stage. Panic surged within her, but her feet felt glued to the spot. From behind the curtains, a figure emerged. It was an actor, dressed in a tattered costume from a bygone era. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow, yet there was something familiar about him. It was as if Alice had seen him in old photographs. He opened his mouth, and his voice echoed through the empty hall. His voice resonated with a power that made Alice break into a cold sweat. "The show must go on," he said softly. His voice carried the weight of centuries. The stage lights flickered on one by one, bathing the theater in a sickly yellowish glow. The shadows in the audience leaned forward, eager for the performance to begin. The actor on stage bowed slightly and gestured toward Alice. "You've come to join us, haven't you?" Alice's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, to scream, but no words came. Her body moved on its own, stepping into line and joining the phantom cast. The moment she stepped in line, the theater came to life. The walls pulsed with a strange energy, and the ghosts of the past swirled around her. She was no longer a visitor. She was part of the final performance. The candle's flame flickered violently, as if it sensed a shift. But it did not go out. Instead, it grew brighter, casting a haunting glow over the scene. The shadows clapped in unison, a slow, rhythmic applause that seemed to come from another world. Alice could feel herself slipping away. Her thoughts became muddled. She was losing herself to the theater, to the ghosts, to the play that never ended. Just as the actor stepped forward to speak his next line, the candle began to melt faster. The wax dripped onto the stage like tears. At that moment, Alice realized the truth. Edenwood Theater wasn't just haunted, it was cursed. Every soul who entered its doors became part of the never-ending show, bound to the stage for eternity. Now, she was one of them. The flame flickered one last time before going out, plunging the theater into darkness once again.